Welcome to the Habitat Podcast, the podcast for wildlife habitat management, hunting strategy, and land stewardship. And now, your host, Jared Van Hees.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast.
I'm your host, Jared Van Hees, and we are here to become better habitat managers. Happy Friday, everybody. It is mid-January. We are kicking off habitat season. Many of us have already been in the woods doing some work. We are kicking off our land plan visits here at Habitat Podcast. I'm excited to get that process going, help people improve their ground for better habitat. Today, we have my good friend, Mr. Cody Jarrett out of West Virginia. Cody's been on the podcast a long time ago, like 4 years ago. He is from West Virginia. He has property there. He used to own property in Illinois as well. And he drives 7 hours and do habitat work and hunt and kill big deer and have a great time, living the dream. Since then, he's sold the Illinois ground, and now he is in Southern Ohio, which is a lot closer to home for him. New baby. He's owned that 3 years now. It sounds like somewhere in there, 3 years. And he's doing very well. Harvested a giant Ohio buck this past fall. And guys, we have him on here today to talk about his habitat implementation on the Ohio farm, his food program, the hunting strategy. It's very topographic, like my Northern 70, which is, in my opinion, challenging. He talks about timber. He talks about old field. We talk about switchgrass, brush management, autumn olive, and vine control. And guys, just another awesome habitat discussion with a great guy. I could talk to this guy once a week, and may have to start doing that. Cody, thanks for coming on, my friend, and good luck in the future and getting your daughter into this lifestyle we do here with hunting and habitat work. Keep it up, brother. So everybody who hasn't heard of our Habitat Chat group on Facebook, go check that out. It's called Habitat Chat by Habitat Podcast. There are 7,400 members on that group now, and we have some awesome discussions on there. We've been talking about hinge cutting. We've been talking about recipes and sausage stuffers. We've been talking about food plots, grasses, all kinds of stuff on that group. I urge you to go check it out. I'll do a special shout out for our partners here at the Habitat Podcast. We're going to work on some new ones this year. Got some stuff in the works right now. And guys, that's how you can help support us, is by supporting the people who support this podcast. So thank you to our partners and our listeners. Really appreciate everybody coming back here. We had an awesome year last year. One episode a week, guys. That's a lot of content. That's a lot of a resource for everybody. And I just hope you guys are enjoying it. For those who have left us great reviews because you love this free content, thank you so much. There's a link in the show notes. If you have the podcast app on Apple iTunes or on an Apple phone, it's that purple app. Scroll down on the episode, you'll be able to leave a review. Hit the 5-star button, write something nice, and then let me know you did that by either messaging me on Instagram, Facebook, the Habitat Chat group, or info@habitatpodcast.com. That's info@habitatpodcast.com. I will get you a decal sent out for free, 5-inch diameter circular Habitat Podcast decal for free if you leave us a 5-star review and write something nice. Guys, that's how we have to stay ahead of the very saturated podcast world that there is. And last but not least, I want to thank our patrons over at the Habitat Podcast Patreon. That Marco Polo group, guys, is firing off. I have to keep up on it. There's so much content going through there. Projects, questions. We talked a lot about tree planting and trail cameras in the last 30 days on there. My poor buddy Joel, his tent up on the mountain caved in from snow. We're talking about hybrid willows, just awesome conversations that go on there all day long. And it's like my buddy Jason Bones always says, he's on there, and we interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. It's like a deer camp habitat version all the time. So, you got Noah up in Wisconsin on there. We got West Virginia, North Carolina. We got, all kinds of people there on the Habitat Podcast Patreon that are supporting and being part of a closer habitat community than what you can get here in the podcast. If you want more, if you want to live and breathe and see what we're doing every single day, scroll down, check out the Patreon program, and we'll see you over there on the Marco Polo group. Thanks again. Here we are with Cody Jarrett talking Southern Ohio hunting and habitat and a nice 170 plus inch whitetail. This segment is brought to you by Downburst Cedars. Guys, you know I've been using a Downburst up at the Northern 70 on my 5 acres of food plots, and man, did I have success last year with this machine. This attaches to the back of, could be a tractor. I use my quad, could be a side-by-side. Precision seeding, precise seed rates. It's compact, it's lightweight, simple operation. I fill and go, fill and go, fill and go. And I had a perfect stand of Nitro Boost and carbon load up at the Northern 70. That's right, Doug designed this thing to take vitalized seed mixes, which is a very diverse program. We use a vitalized Doug's Downburst DS860 drop seeder will do it, and I've used it and I love it. Guys, it's all aluminum. This thing is beautiful. It's a Northern Michigan made piece of art, like I've said before. I urge you to check it out. Doug's been making these himself, shipping them out to our listeners one by one. And man, if you want something to plant expensive seeds like clover, brassica, at the exact rate, check out a Downburst Cedar. Doug over at downburstcedars.com will get you taken care of. Tell them Habitat Podcast sent you. There's even a discount for you. It's here with my good friend Cody Jarrett. How you doing today, buddy?
Good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me again.
Of course. I'm doing well. Thank you. It's Friday. It's wintertime habitat season, and
Big time.
I was just looking at the last time. The only other time we had you on was June of 2021. So
yeah,
already, 3.5 years ago over that. So welcome back.
A lot of things have changed. Man, I sold all my Illinois stuff and bought a bunch of ground down in Southern Ohio, a little closer to home. So it was tough to keep my thumbprint on everything, 6-7 hours away. Now I'm an hour, so I can utilize it more.
Okay, well, I want to hear what's happened since we talked last. So give us a little rundown on who you are, where you're from. Again, if everybody wants to hear about Cody and the Illinois stuff, West Virginia stuff, go back to episode 133 in terms of his farms. But let's catch up now to who you are, where you're from, for those who haven't listened, and kind of what happened to Illinois and Ohio.
All right. Well, my name's Cody Jarrett, and I've been kind of buying and selling ground, just trying to find the right piece. And there for the longest time, I was stuck trying to buy in like a $2 or $3 state, if you will, because I always thought I don't want to tag out early and then not have another deer to go after, not be able to go after another deer. Well, that was never the case. Even in Illinois, where it was a $2 state, I never filled 2 tags, because once you start hunting a mature deer, you very rarely have 2 on a piece of ground, unless you have a monster piece of ground. So, it was getting tough for me to drive out there and do the stuff I needed to do. I was relying on a buddy out there to help me whenever he could. Then I always felt bad. So end up selling it right before COVID happened. And then bought a big piece down in Southern Ohio. So now I can keep my thumb on it and do what needs to be done and stay up on the place, I actually enjoy it every day if I have to.
Yeah. So how big is the piece in Ohio now, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a 202.
Very nice, man.
Yeah. So I took an 80 and made a 200 out of it. So
okay.
Obviously, it's a lot more rugged ground, but, so the price per acre is cheaper than, the Midwest, but I can get a lot more of it. So that's kind of what I was looking at.
And so you're an hour from home now, right?
Yeah. From my home farm to my Ohio farm, about an hour and 15 minutes. So I can go there every day. Now, don't get me wrong. When I was hunting that deer I killed a couple months ago, I had 40 days on him. So driving an hour and 15 minutes a couple times a day. Oh man, one day I woke up and I'm like, I'm taking a break today. I'm not seeing him. He's in the middle of the night. And then he was in front of a trail camera with a doe for like 6 straight hours. The one day I was just like, I'm taking a break. So even an hour is pushing it at times.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you. My first property was an hour and 15 minutes away, and it was doable. There had some pros and cons to it. You didn't go there, every day to check cameras or this and that. But you could hunt. I hunted there multiple days in a row, drove home after, it's not that bad once you get driving.
No, it's not bad when the time changes, when it gets dark at 5:30 or so. Sure. But the front end of it, you got to get up a little earlier, but it's not too bad. Like getting home early season, getting home at 9 o'clock or later, that takes a toll on you.
It does, especially when the kids are supposed to be in bed at like 8. So then you
Right.
miss bedtime and helping out and saying goodnight and all that. So yeah, I hear you there.
Right.
So you said
And I got a brand new one at the house now. She's going to be 6 months old here in a couple of days.
So how many kids do you have now?
Just one. She'll be 6 months here. Well, maybe tomorrow, the 20th, whenever that is.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on that, man.
Thank you. And that was a big change. I mean, that was kind of what we were talking about and me wanting to do. And that's probably the biggest reason I sold like all my stuff in Illinois, because I was spending entirely too much time out there, work a midnight turn and drive 6 hours out there, 7 hours out there, stay for a week. So you get homesick after a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And was there better hunting in Illinois or where you're at now, do you think?
Ooh, that's a great question. I love the Midwest. It's my most favorite place in the world. And I think it's because you can see so much. You get into a bean field or a harvested corn field or CRP field, you can see forever. So you're constantly seeing deer. Where in Southern Ohio, the topography is, more steep. So you may not see as many deer, but the quality of deer from where I'm at now to where I was in Illinois is the same. When I first bought the farm, this summer will be my third planting year on it. I would see maybe 10 deer a sit, where now this fall I was seeing close to 30, so it's the deer starting to learn, and I'm growing into the farm already. And you always run into that when you start putting food on it, because it never had food on it before. The guy I bought it off of, he dozed in a lot of fields. He did all the hard work, because he owned an excavation company. So he cleaned up all the fields and stuff. But yeah, as far as like the deer quality and the hunting, I love the Midwest. You can see forever, like you can get into a harvested cornfield or a bean field or CRP field, and you can just see deer all day long. Where in Southern Ohio, it's a lot steeper. And when I first bought that farm, coming up will be my third planting season this summer. When I first bought it, I would see 10 deer a sit or so. And then this fall, I was seeing close to 30 almost every sit. So I'm starting to grow into it. They're starting to learn there's food there, which, I mean, that's a good thing, but comes with troubles too, right? I'm picking up a pile of does. And I've learned over the years, don't shoot your does late in the year, because chances are you're shooting neighbors' does. So I try to focus on killing all my does. And I'm in a 3 deer county, so I can kill 1 buck and 2 does or 3 does. So it's tough. So I always try to shoot my does right off the rip. That way I'm not killing the neighbor's does from 2 or 3 miles away, because I have big food plots. So, but as far as quality, I do have the same quality of deer I had in Illinois. Next year was going to be like my super year. I had 4 deer over 150 that were 3 and 4 years old this year, and EH hit and just completely annihilated that farm, completely annihilated like the neighboring farms. But it was weird because we lost almost all 3 and 4 year olds. Like the deer I killed was 6. He was fine. There's a big, well, he's not big. He's terrible. He's like 120, and she's 8.5-year-old 8-pointer. He's fine. So it was so weird how it hit this year, but it hit hard. We lost a pile of deer. We lost all of our great up and comers for whatever reason. So we're a couple years away. I got a 5-acre cornfield. I've been mowing off, an acre or so at a time. So like right now I've picked up a lot of deer and a lot of 3 and 4 year olds backfield. So I'm all right. I just don't have those super deer that I thought I was going to have next year, because next year was going to be probably my best year of hunting I'd ever have in my life. And EHD came through, changed it.
Man. Of course, there's going to be Mother Nature coming along and throwing a curveball in there.
That's exactly right.
Questions I'm thinking here. What's the layout of your 202? Can you explain a little bit on what that looks like? I heard 5-acre field, which I don't think of when I hear Southern Ohio. So just give me a description of that property if you can.
Okay, so the best way to describe it, there's a major creek that runs right down through the center of it. And that's where I was able to get a 5-acre field at. It lays right on that creek bottom. And then it kind of slopes up all the way around it. And then on the north side, it's a big bench, big shelf. So there's a couple food plots up there that I'm actually going to extend the one, because it turned out to be the best place on the farm. And then the whole west side of it has like acre fields kind of scattered throughout it, just because it kind of it's real flat and then dips down into that creek bottom, then goes back up the other side, and it's a big ridge top. And then the north side is the same way, but there's like a small feeder creek that feeds the main creek. So like the top north side, it's just a big ridge that faces south, and that's by far the best bedding. So I don't do too much up there. I stay out of it. That's where the deer lived that I killed this year. And kind of touch on that a little bit. When I first bought the place, he was everywhere on the neighbors. I mean, he was just everywhere. And then this year when I killed him, he never left probably a 20-acre block. So I picked up his sheds last year and the year before laying right there, right next to each other. So he was a homebody, never moved much. And as he got older, his area just got even smaller and smaller. So it sounds like he was easy to kill, but I had 40 days on him, man. A hard 40 days.
Wow. And in that bedding area that you're talking about, how big is that area?
Well, looking at my farm, I call it the 8 acres because it's just a little tiny top hat on the top of the farm, and it's exactly 8 acres. And it lays so nice. It's flat, it's loaded with oaks, and it's got a bunch of like autumn olive underbrush kind of stuff, and it's always in the sun. So it's picture perfect. And I need to learn how to get up there and kind of hunt the fringes of it, but where it is and how it lays is for me to get there during season. I'm going to do more harm than good, I think. Yeah. So I just leave it be, and it seems to work. Problem is where like the fields are and stuff, a lot of times, unless you get nasty weather, they don't get there till dark or a little after, There was a lot of times that deer followed me out of the field this year.
Just because he's bedding too far up and you're too far away with the food source or your hunting setup.
Right. And there's 2 clover fields in between that I planted and just leave them be. And that is good, but it'll hang a lot of deer up at times as well, And I'm such a passive hunter. I think I hurt myself more than not because I don't do very many aggressive moves. Like I'm super passive and I'll tiptoe a lot. So I think if I would just not give the deer the benefit I give them, I think I'd be better off. But at the same time, I don't hurt the property by getting super aggressive and bumping deer out. They're always cool, calm, and collected there. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. And I think you could go both ways with that. But I think with the private, you only have so much room before they're gone on the neighbors, right? So you got to be careful on that.
Exactly.
If you're hunting public or whatever, you could dive in and be a little more aggressive. And maybe there's times where you could dive in yours and be aggressive. I mean, 200 acres, but at the same time, that wind could swirl and you could bust out 40 acres in one sit, So
right. And that's the problem with how the land lays is the wind is very rarely consistent, like especially because I shot that deer in the bottom and he was coming from the north, but I hunted it with a straight west wind because it would come off from the west, hit the bottom, and then swirl up like this, and then kind of hit me in the face again. It's just weird how land directs the airflow,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a learning curve because there was times I'd be sitting down there thinking I had the perfect wind and deer be blowing at me. I'm thinking that's where the wind's coming from, but you kind of learn.
That was on my list of questions to ask you here with that bottom and that 5-acre cornfield. I understand that's probably some of the flattest ground you have, and that's what I'm working with up north too. A very similar sounding parcel, just mine smaller. How did you get down there and hunt without blowing everything out on the way down? The wind swirling like you did. Do you not hunt down there very much? Are you in a blind? How do you tackle that challenging wind?
So it was a learning curve. There was times the hardest part was getting in, right? So like the first year I had a trail, I just pretty much just walked down to it and it was all right. But then once I started walking it, cause I do all my hunting, if you will, like in February, March, when the snow's gone, cause it looks just like November and you can learn a lot. You can figure out where the deer bed at. You can see a lot of tracks, a lot of scrapes and rubs and stuff like that. So that last winter is kind of how I came up with my new entrance into that field. I would actually park up where my barn is. I'd walk all the way to the south property line. I'd walk down a real steep hill, jump into that creek, walk the creek probably 3/4 of a mile. And then I had a trail I brush hogged around the corn. And I took a machete and kind of bushwhacked the trail through the standing corn to get into a blind this year. Where years past, last year, it's only my second year hunting it, I had stands in the bottom. So either one was fine. That blind's nice. A hard-sided blind's nice because it can contain all your wind. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still a tree stand hunter.
I know. I totally hear you. It's just that when that wind and that thermals, move around and swirl, it's tough. And then, like you said, walking down, I have a logging road that I walk down to get in, and those deer sit right on the edges of it and just watch that road because that's where the skidder went up and down for a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm also having to recreate access the hard way so the deer keep watching that trail and I'm coming in the back door, right? Same idea.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, because you know how they are. They sit high, they look where the wind's not blowing, so it's tough. But, once I found out where they bedded, it made me feel better about how I got down there, and I just had to
Yeah.
tweak it a little bit. And then
Okay.
EHD hit on the south side way worse than anywhere else on the farm. So there wasn't very many deer down there. I very rarely bumped a deer. And for whatever
Sure.
reason, I've learned the past 2 seasons on this farm is the deer will come into that bottom, feed for just a little bit. I'm talking 15, 20 minutes. Then they head straight back up the hill, and I still don't know where they go. But I just pulled a camera I had basically for trespassers. It's just on the main ridge, like from my gate. I figure if somebody's trespassing, that's where I'm going to get them. It was the best camera on the farm this year. There's deer I've never seen anywhere else. And it's just on the highest point on the farm. So I don't know if the wind's more consistent there and they
Sure.
can kind of do, they just follow their nose. But so I'm going to tweak it. Like next year, the bottom's going to be beans. And I had what I call the oil field. It was a shallow well that they had in Ohio, many, many years ago. They're actually, the state's digging that well up and capping it now. I'm going to plant that in corn this year. And it's only like an acre and a half. It's a smaller field, but it's on the highest point on the farm. So I'm thinking as crazy as it sounds, I think I'm hunting it wrong. I think I can do a lot better by staying out of the bottom until now. Because, like that Thanksgiving weekend, like Black Friday, that weekend is probably one of the best weekends of the year, in my opinion. That one and, leading up to Halloween, the last 5 days of October. But that's the Black Friday, that week, and there is when they start hitting that bottom religiously.
Okay.
Like you go down there and kill any deer you want right now. But throughout the rut and throughout the year, I just need to stay out of that bottom until your temperatures, like thermals they're tough. But if you keep thermals in mind at all times, you can really do some damage. But early on, when the daytime temps are 40s and 50s and it's sunny, then the night times are getting down close to freezing, your wind does nothing but swirl. So it's almost impossible. Like right now, it's 10 degrees at night and 15 in the daytime. Your winds are not going to swirl. You don't have to worry about the heat, so keep all that in mind. So I think from here on out, I'm going to stay high on the ridges, hit my smaller fields, and then just there's a few places on the farm I still don't know much about. So the next 3 months or so, I'm going to focus on those few areas to figure out how to bow hunt a little bit better because I missed a bunch this year. There's a lot of great deer that I didn't even know I had until last weekend. But going into this year, I had one deer in mind. I wasn't shooting anything else other than the deer I got. So it really didn't matter, but I could have killed him in October because he was on that ridge camera for a week straight at 9 o'clock in the morning. I had no idea. I didn't even know he went there. Never got his picture there ever. And then there he was for a week straight.
Why do you think they were up there? Because of the more consistent wind you mentioned? I mean, that would behoove you to hunt there with a better wind.
Right. I think it is because they're above all the food plots because there's 4 of them. And what I call the northwest corner is super thick. They're just above it. So I think, they just followed their nose. It made it easier for them. And if there was danger, they're 2 leaps away and they're in the thickest stuff on a farm, so safety, I think, was key for them.
Interesting. So what do you think has been your biggest improvement in the past 3 years that you've owned the farm or whatever? You're coming to your 3rd planting season here. What do you think your biggest improvement is so far, habitat-wise?
Habitat-wise, so other than food, it's getting rid of autumn olive. I've been really hitting autumn olive and grapevines. So by me killing the grapevines, and all you do with the grapevine, just walk through and just cut it, let it swing away from itself so it doesn't fuse back together, and it kills it. And that's letting the canopy grow, and that's helped me kill the autumn olive because it's shading them all out. But getting more natives in there, because like I always say, no matter what we do as far as planting stuff, Mother Nature's been doing this long before we have. And if you think back in the 90s and earlier, the 90s were probably an era where there's some of the biggest deer ever were killed, right? And nobody was doing anything back then. So I think by keeping Mother Nature involved, I think you're more beneficial.
Yeah.
Right. So I've been getting rid of autumn olive, and because it's old strip ground, so it's a lot of autumn olive. So that's probably my biggest improvement is just getting rid of the junk stuff, getting better stuff growing.
Yeah.
And grasses. Grass is probably my favorite of everything.
Okay. Before you get in the grasses, because I want to talk to you about that. The autumn olive removal, are you using like a NRCS or any local program that will help pay you or cost share?
Yes. And that's the best thing to do, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. And all you have to do is, they come out and check once a year or whatever. So, I mean, you've got to get stuff moving, but it's not too hard to kill. If you don't get into, like, there's different chemicals, and I can't think of the names offhand, but if you get the smaller stuff, Gly will kill them, Tordon, it's pretty wicked. It kills about everything, but you got to be careful with Tordon, because if you have, shared root systems, it's going to kill everything. So
interesting. So how'd that process go? Did you have to apply by a certain date? Did you have to interview, or how'd that all go?
So Ohio is a little bit different than West Virginia. Like my home farm, I've been doing NRCS stuff since 2010 or so.
Nice.
And that's what you do. Like the state forester comes up and you'll walk areas. Like I do a lot of grapevine here, and what they look for is how good your timber could be, right? A lot of oaks or walnuts or cherries, anything that's valuable. And then they kind of grade it. And then from that, whatever grade they give you, it goes to a committee, it sounds like. And then you're either awarded or not awarded the contract. And then the contracts can be, a couple years, could be just a year. Like I had a 25 acre contract in my home farm a couple years ago, and they split it 12 and a half acres each year for 2 years. And they do that just in case something happens, I fall and break my leg, or, something happens. They want me to be able to at least have another year to get it done. In Ohio, I signed up for what they call OFTL. It's Ohio Forest Tax Law. And basically, you just got to be working towards a timber harvest. So they want you to get rid of your lesser timber, clean up your autumn olives, get rid of your grapevines, and they come out and check on you. And there's a lot of stipulations. Like I can't run cattle. You have to have your property posted. So if somebody else is timbering, they don't cross the property lines and cut timber before it's ready. Ohio is really, really good about stuff like that, man. They're all about habitat management, it seems. Like I'm really pleased with Ohio.
Well, that's good to hear. Is that like a tax reduction then, or did you get cost share help from Ohio on this stuff? Or it sounds like you might be in a permanent program.
Yeah, so the OFTL is it's a tax break. And then there's programs you can grow into from there that called like CAUV, where it'll reduce your taxes even more. But I think I was one of the last farms at the time to sign up for it where you didn't have to wait 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So like you can sign up for it and they'll come on and check, once a year just to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, because they don't want you to just sign up for it and reap all the benefits and not put in any of the labor.
Right.
But no, I'm very happy with Ohio, and I'm looking into a lot more programs too. Like we were talking about grasses there.
Yeah, let's go into grasses.
Yeah, so I'm looking into some more programs about planting, like not a monoculture, not just plain switch. I'm talking to benefit a lot of the bees and stuff like that. I've got a 3 acre field that I planted switch in it, but I never maintained it. I seeded it and then let the switch come up plus all the natives. So it's ugly.
How'd you prepare for that real quick before you did that?
How'd I prepare the soil?
Yep.
So it was an old dozed field years ago. Okay. So what I did, because it was rough, is I took one of those drag harrows behind a 4-wheeler and just drove around for a long time. Then we just kind of broadcast it in and back drug it. And it looked really good. But like I said, I never maintained it, never mowed it, never burn it. I just let it come up natural. So a lot of forbs came in. It is ugly. I mean, it's not what the switchgrass people would want to see by no means, but it's not a mono either. There's all kind of natives in there, flowers and shrubs. And awesome. When I shot my deer, he ran through the center of that field, and me and my buddy Tim, we were walking through tracking him, and there was just beds everywhere. I'm like, man, this is awesome.
We are proudly partnered with Midwest Lifestyle Properties. Guys, I've been working with Chad Thalen and the Midwest Lifestyle Property team for a long, long time now. MLP is one of the top 3 brokerage in the UC network. That's United Country Network. There are approximately 600 UC offices across the country. Chad and his team here in Michigan are the guys you need to get a hold of if you're looking to buy or sell property in the great state of Michigan. A couple of his new agents. We have, well, not new, Lincoln Roan over in West Michigan. Brandon Hammonds, a brand new agent for the UC MLP team here. Alan Messing, another great agent. We're going to be hearing from these guys in the future about what they can offer. Their agents are real land pros. It is their lifestyle. They sell $150 million in land each year, and nationwide, they've sold over 25,000 acres in the past 2 years. Pretty wild. Chad and his team at the Michigan Midwest Lifestyle Properties are here to help. We have a link in the show notes for you, MidwestLifestyleProperties.com, another great place to find out more. If you are interested in listing or purchasing a property here in Michigan, click the link below, tell them Habitat Podcast sent you.
Have you ever been overwhelmed by the hundreds of food plot seed mixes out there? Well, you are not alone. And Vitalize Seed has developed a seed program that takes the guesswork out of food plotting. Vitalize Seed has 2 core mixes, the Nitro Boost and Carbon Load, to keep it simple. Nitro Boost is their spring-summer food plot mix, and Carbon Load is the fall plot mix, each having a diverse mix of over a dozen different seed types that are highly attractive to whitetail. Food plotting made simple, but it gets even better. Each mix provides necessary nutrients to the soil, making for better plots each season and saving you money by needing less Roundup and less fertilizer each season. The 1-2 system simplifies your food plots just how nature intended. Vitalize Seed. Make biology work for you. Order now at vitalizeseed.com.
Do you have any woody growth coming up in there?
I do. And I'm going to tackle a lot of that this winter. You have your locust will grow up, and there's actually a ton of sycamore saplings that are coming up, which is weird where it is, but I'm going to get rid of them this winter. That's on my agenda. I'd like to run a fire through it this winter too, but there's a lot of brush piles in the middle of it. So we'll see if I run a fire, but I'll definitely maintain all the woody stuff.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds just like a perfect old field, right? Like old field habitat. They love it.
Right. I think I posted a picture on my Instagram, one frosty fall morning. And it was pretty sweet. A lot of pokeweeds in that field. And you know how deer love pokeweed. Love it.
Yeah. High in protein, man.
Yeah.
That I love that. Do you recall what grasses you planted in there? Was it a warm season mixture? And what are you doing with any other fields in the future? What are you looking to do?
I'm gonna do a lot more clover this year. I have one field that I plant every year. I take my time and it looks awesome, but it's impossible to hunt because they bed on 3 sides of it.
Yep.
And you just can't do it. So I'm not gonna plant anything in that. I'm just gonna put it in clover and mow it twice a year. I'm going to clean up that. We call it the switchgrass field, but it's not a switchgrass field. It's just an everything field now. But the original plan was just to make it a big, beautiful switchgrass field. But to get back onto the NRCS programs, there's a lot of, what do they call them? I can't think of what they call them, but they like bees. So there's a lot of flowers, a lot of forbs, grass
programs.
Yeah, that's exactly. Why couldn't I think of that? Yeah, the pollinator program. I want to get into something like that.
Between 2 of us, we'll have it covered.
That's right. So I'm really wanting to get into a pollinator program because that's 3 acres I could do something awesome with.
Yeah, man. It sounds like you have quite the diversity of open ground and timber.
Yeah.
It's a lot of timber property down that way, usually, from where I've been.
Yeah. And like I said, the guy I bought off of, he still owns a farm about a mile away. Super good dude. Like he has visions. Like he's a really cool guy and he has the equipment to push fields, so he did wonders for this property because it was basically a big timber property, years ago and he had it. But the fields were there. It looks like on old maps, he just was able to clean them up, so I pretty much had a blank slate coming into it. Has a few ponds on it too. I was able to stock 2 of them.
Nice.
And they're, an acre, 3/4 of an acre and way smaller, but not to get kind of too off track here. What I've learned with water is that's probably one of the most overlooked things. Like I was over there this past weekend, putting fresh batteries and everything. And I started my supplemental feeding program. The amount of deer tracks around the ponds now is tenfold from what they were in the summertime.
Okay.
So I beat a lot of ice, opening the ponds back up. And I got to thinking about it. It makes sense because all the plants throughout the spring and summer and even early fall have a lot of moisture in them. And then
Yep.
now there's no moisture.
True.
So having water is key, I think. One of the probably the most overlooked of everything.
I'm glad you brought that up. Especially even if there's water around, like a creek, like you have a creek, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that's where they want to feel most comfortable getting water too. Like if you have a little water hole surrounded by cover, that could be beneficial.
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear about your pond stocking. And the only reason I ask is I met with a guy last night, one of my neighbors at my 40 acres here in Michigan, and he has an excavator. So we're talking about popping some stumps out of my landing decks where I can park my camper and stuff. And we want to raise up the ground a little bit. And one of the better ideas was just to dig a pond and move the dirt and raise up the pad. And so I'm
Yeah,
curious, like how deep are your ponds? Are the fish surviving in them? Any idea?
Yeah. We just came out of what the Weather Channel's calling a 35-year drought.
Oh yeah,
Like
Al told me that. Yeah.
It was the worst I've ever seen it.
Wow.
So they were 8 foot down, I bet you, 6 to 8 foot from where they typically run. You could see it on the banks. And I still couldn't see the bottom. So I'm guessing they're 8 to 10 foot deep in the
Okay.
centers of them. And I was nervous about the fish because I stocked them last 2 summers ago, and then we had the drought. But when I was over there this past weekend, we've been hovering right around 0. So we came from the driest, hottest of all time to now the coldest, like complete opposite. And I did see some fish swirl. So I still have some, but I just don't know how many. I didn't see any floating or anything like that. So I'm hoping the fish are still there. Cause I take my little nephew over there, and as I'm doing stuff, he will just sit there and, slay 8-10 inch bass now. And he thinks it's the greatest thing in the world.
That's exactly why I want to do it too for my kids. That makes perfect
Yes.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I don't know, a quarter acre, half acre. I still got to talk. We got a couple pond specialists that we talked to on here too that I should probably get a hold of. But that's pretty awesome. There's one thing I saw on your Instagram, and by the way, guys, if you're not following Cody on Instagram, I would. It's at Cody Jarrett. Is there an underscore in there?
Yes.
Yep, Cody Jarrett _. Yep. So I saw one you were doing something with cedars and persimmons.
Oh yeah.
Which farm is that on? And tell me about your idea there, because I'm looking to buy some cedars this weekend.
Yeah, I know. Like, I'll probably get some flack over this, but I love an Eastern red cedar. A lot of people, because we don't have them around here.
It depends where you're at, right? Exactly.
Yeah, but the deer love them. Like, I've never, like when I was hunting out in Kansas and stuff years ago, like if you had Eastern red cedars, it just seemed like you had deer. So through the county, the Soil and Water District, you could buy 16-inch saplings. Like, I forget the price. It was not, I can't think of the price, but I planted like 75 of them last spring and summer. And then we had the worst drought of all time. So I'm pretty sure none of them lived. So I went through that switchgrass field on the very high side of it and plugged in all those cedars. And then the persimmons, there's a shelf that runs clear across the top of that field. I planted all the persimmons there. And I have another little field that we just call the runway field. It runs down into the middle field that we can't hunt that I'm going to put into clover. And I planted a long row of persimmons in that field as well. Like I said, I doubt any of them made it. Well, I might get lucky, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. But I didn't go to like the big box stores and buy them, 7 foot tall, 3-gallon buckets, nothing like that. I bought all bare root stock, 16-inch, I think they were. And they're not, I think you can get like a group of 5 it was a group of 10 for $15. That's what it was, so they're cheap. You just have to wait a while for them to grow.
Yeah. How did you plant those?
I actually took, what the heck kind of shovel? It was just, like a 4-inch wide shovel, straight. And what I did was I made an X or a T with it. And then I went on the side of it, jammed it as deep as I could, pried it open, and opened up like a clam, if you will, like 2 clams. And I stuck it in, pulled the shovel out, and I closed it right up.
Nice.
So it worked. It was quick. I just hope they made it.
Okay, so hold on. So I see a T. After you make the T with the 4-inch spade shovel or whatever it is, where do you stick the side in? Where do you stick it in to open it up like a clam? And
any of the sides,
okay,
where it kind of crosses, just off to the side. So once you get underneath of that T, you just kind of open it up, and it just opens right up.
Good
so
idea.
you can hammer through a whole, basket of bare root trees. And kind of the goal was you have to get it as deep as the roots are. Those roots were super long on those cedars, so I had to go pretty deep to get to it because you don't want them kind of rolling up or breaking. So basically, whatever you have, just kind of learn or just look at how long your roots are and just try to get them that deep. That way, they're straight up and down.
Yeah, that makes sense. I hear you on. I wish I had them all in the the 3 gallon pots or 10 gallon pots, the 3-year-olds, and um.
Yeah.
But some of these, they're a little more prolific, so that might be one where you can do the shovel. That's what I plan on doing, and banging out a bunch of them.
Yep, you just gotta wait a few years, and
Yep.
I think they grow pretty quick anyway.
Yeah,
It'd
yeah.
be
Is
nice
it-
to find somebody getting rid of a bunch or just didn't want them. You just go, dig up 5-footers or something.
yeah,
But man, you'd have some time wrapped into that.
exactly. Which, yeah, they'd be more successful in survival though. But it's
Yep.
just that balance. What do you want to do?
What I wish I would have done is just went out and bought a bunch of small buckets or something and planted them at my house and then put them in right now. Cause then I could have watered them all last summer, all fall, and then just planted them right now. That's looking back. That's probably what I'll do this year. Cause I just got the form in the mail that they're getting ready you can put your orders in now. So I think that's what I'm going to do instead of risking, bad weather like we had June, July, August this year.
Yeah, yeah. Potted are. I've had better luck with potted plants, which yours will be then potted at the end of the fall, ready to go, than I have bare root
Yeah.
plants.
Yeah, me too. I saw on their form this year that they have a bunch of chestnuts. I'm torn on what to do there because I want to do chestnuts. I've been reading about them, and a lot of people love them.
Yeah.
Seems like the deer do too, but I think I might just spend the extra money and buy the potted ones
Yeah.
this year on those.
Yeah, I've done some from seed. I've done some from small pots. It depends how much time you want to put into it. I ended up
Yeah.
buying before I got with Morse. I bought some from Walmart years ago. The Chestnut Hill, I think. They were maybe 25 or $30 a piece, and those were producing in a couple years, and they had all kinds of chestnuts. It was really cool. So
Yeah.
I'd buy the best trees you can afford with that because you want that to happen. Cedars, they'll be good at 2 foot. They'll be getting rubbed on and chewed on, but these chestnuts, you want those to get up and get fruiting or nutting really quick. So
Right. And on the price side of things, like if you're going to plant like an acre field, right, or quarter acre, whatever you have, you're $30 for a bag of seed plus your time, fertilizer. But if
Yeah.
you plant one tree, you're $30, and that's a lifetime food plot if you want it that way. So if you look at it that way, the price isn't bad, especially because you're going to buy them 6 foot tall, 5 foot tall, for $30 at Tractor Supply or Walmart.
Yep. Yeah, I know even Morse and the nursery we work with now, they have late dropping ones. Early, mid, and late. My buddy Matt Zoll just bought a bunch of those and put them in last fall, about September. And they look really good. They're like 2-footers, good looking trees, lots of leaves on them. So that's probably how I'll go next. But between that and some crabs and stuff like that, I got a bunch of trees I'm putting in this spring too. So it's that time.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. And I've even thought about because you'll see a lot of people planting in the spring. And then I've been talking to some guys. I have a really good friend up in Michigan, and he plants all of his stuff in the fall.
Okay.
And he swears that's the way to go.
Yeah. Who's your buddy?
So I
in
think
Michigan?
his name's Eric. He's down in St. Joseph County. I don't know if that's
Okay.
close to you or not. Yeah.
No, it's closer to Chicago area, but yeah, it's a good county for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I do all the turkey hunting. We have a big turkey camp up there every year. We've been
Gotcha.
doing it. This will be like the 13th year, I think. So
Okay,
pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool. Cody, what is your equipment setup? You said you have a barn up there on the farm in Ohio.
Mhm.
What are you running for tractor, for equipment? Let's kind of run through what it takes to manage a 200-acre parcel for deer.
Right. So, like my home farm, it's 152 acres. I bought it when I was 21 years old. Probably never should have bought it. I had more money. I had less money in my bank account than what the mortgage was. Like it was
Yeah.
probably dumb, but whatever. My goal was because nobody in my family hunts or anything like this. So my goal was I wanted to be the first. So down the road, I want, my great great grandchildren to say, my great 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 grandfather Cody bought this in 2009, So that was always my goal. But so I did my home farm. I had no money. So I did it with a 33 horse New Holland, And then as the years went on, I bought a 71 horse Kubota. And then when I bought this farm in Ohio, I just took it over there and stuck it in the barn. And then last year I drove up to Lake Erie and bought a Perfecta 12 10-footer off a hop farmer that was just mangled in pieces, So I've had to rebuild that all last winter. So that's how I work up all my fields now. And then if like when I do beans this year, I'll rent a no-till drill from the county, and it's like a minimum $50, and it's like $15 an acre after that or something. So you can't buy one if you can rent them for that cheap,
Yeah.
So there's programs all over the place to help, guys like me and you out for everything. It's hard to buy something when you can rent it for pennies. It just doesn't cash flow very well.
No, I hear you there. That's a pretty good setup. I think most counties have that sort of program. We might have to drive a county over here to get a drill or something, at least a drill of the right size. But
yeah. And they have like way better fertilizer spreaders than I could ever afford. So like I'll never buy one.
Yep.
I'll rent theirs if I can. I've got small ones, don't get me wrong, that I'll do like my small fields with, but like that 5-acre field, I'll rent theirs. And then years ago I custom built found an old 7100 John Deere planter, and I cut it down, welded on a toolbar in the front, put a 400-pound fertilizer hopper on the front, completely made it no-till, and that's what I put my corn in with. And I'm not I'm probably into that for maybe $3,000, $3,500 with everything. It took a whole summer to do it, but it's done. Yeah.
Wow, nice. So will that fertilize in row, or how does that work?
Yeah, how I build it is 2 inches off to the side, 2 inches below the seed.
Wow.
So, because I run dry fertilizer. And I was hesitant on that because I just run pure urea through it. I don't run a starter through it, nothing like that. So I run pure urea in it, and it'll do 100 pounds an acre, or I think 200 or 300 pounds an acre. And I run it on 100 because I'll incorporate everything else. Like I'll send my soil samples in, and then I'll apply the fertilizer, incorporate it. And then when I plant, I'll just plant 100 pounds of urea 2x2 with the planter. And even with the drought last year, I had the best cornfield I think I've ever planted. So I planted it on May the 3rd. So I had all the May rains, and then we would have an occasional rain. So I think it was just enough to make it look like I knew what I was doing all summer.
Hey man, no complaints there. I'll take it.
No, yeah, that's right. I'll take any help from Mother Nature I can get. She hurt me this year, but she helped too.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And how much urea are you using, do you think, for 5 acres of corn?
Oh, let's see. So I do it by product. Sorry, the dog's chewing on one of the shed antlers down here. But I pull soil samples, and then they'll tell me, but the urea never changes. They always tell you to put the same amount in. So I was putting down about, let me think about this. I keep notes on everything, so I could go pull my book and see what I did. But I think it was like 400.
Rough idea.
So there's a formula, if you get to deep diving into it. They usually say 1-to-1. So if you think you're going to have 180 bushels, they want 180 pounds a unit, 180 units. So I just said I'll have 200. So I put down 400, because 46% of 100. So out of 100 pounds of urea, you're getting 46%, right?
Yep.
So I just I punched the numbers in, and that's what I put down. So I think it was like 400 pounds an acre urea I planted with last year.
Okay. Not terrible.
No. And I actually buy it up in Michigan.
It's
way cheaper up there. Yeah. The friend of mine up there, he has an excavation company. So they do a lot of, when they do yards and stuff. So they work directly with a fertilizer supplier. So I just buy it through his dealer, if you will. And when I go up there for turkey camp, I'll just bring it home, store it.
That's awesome. It's a good idea.
Yeah, because it's way cheaper. Like it was like $35 a bag down here, where I think I was getting it up there for 22.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds about right. I think between 20 and 25 bucks. Yep.
Yeah.
Depends on where you go. Yeah, that makes sense. Good work.
Yeah. You got to save $1 wherever you can when you're doing this.
No kidding. No. What other hacks do you have like that? Because I mean, you're a younger dude. You own a couple of properties. You got a baby now. Like, what else is very important to you, financially? Why? Like, how are you holding this all together?
As crazy as this sounds, like I actually just transferred job there 2 years ago or so. Got a job closer to home because I was driving over an hour. So like when I first bought my home farm, I was 21, like I said, and I had less money than what the mortgage was. So I was working extra shifts all the time. Then it got to the point like I got so frugal. Like if I wanted to buy something, I'd work an extra shift. So it got to the point where I was saving all of my straight time money and then spending overtime money. As crazy as that sounds.
Yes.
Yeah. But as far as hacks, I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to think on that one.
No
That's a
problem.
great question. I'm sure I've got a pile of them.
Keep that in the back of your mind. What about your chainsaws? What saws are you running these days? If you're doing any timber work, or what do you carry in the tractor?
So I have that old 20-inch bar, Farm Boss steel. That's
yeah.
kind of my mule. But I just bought, I think it's a 14 or 16-inch Husqvarna, and it's small, it's light, and that's all my habitat stuff. All the olive, because you don't want to carry that big steel around. Because I had an old one I bought at a yard sale for like $5. I forget what it was, and the guy said it was junk, and all I found of it, the chain tensioner was broke. So it was like a $6 fix. And it actually broke in the middle of one of my grapevine contracts. So I had to carry that steel around, and it was brutal because it was on it was the very last part of the farm I had to do. It was the steepest, the rug. Oh, it was awful, but got it done. I still think a chainsaw is, yeah, I still think a chainsaw is the number one habitat tool.
Gotcha.
You can do a lot of, and if you talk to all the old timers, they'll say, if you want deer on your property, fire up a chainsaw. Because I don't care what I've done. Like today, I've got run a chainsaw. Tomorrow, there'll be deer tracks all over the place near it. So I don't know what it is.
Well, it's like a dinner bell, I guess, right?
It must be.
So, well, how big was that buck that you took this year? What did he end up scoring at?
Well, I've taped him twice. I hit him the first time at like 166 and some change, but I swear I left out a mass measurement. So I retaped him. He was 170 and 5/8.
Wow.
He's actually sitting right here on the floor right now. But I can actually show you where's his left side. So right here's his left side from the year before I bought the farm. Okay. And it's not bad. He was 4 there, I'm guessing. I sent his teeth out, so I won't know for maybe sometime this month. But that was his left side the year before I bought it. And then the first year I put food on it, this is what he looked like, last year. A little bit of a change, Yeah, and then that's when, his 2s got taller, his 3s got a lot taller. And like you said, mass. And then, I had beans on it 2 years ago. I had all the clover fields put in, and I started my supplemental feeding program. And then this is what he did this year through all kinds of, like he really blew up last year. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, congratulations. What an awesome deer. And you put the time in too, and the work.
It was getting to the point where I didn't think it was going to happen.
Really?
Oh, yeah, because I felt like he had my number, but then I'd leave and a cell camera would go off and he was there. And 3 different times I had him within 100 yards and couldn't get it done.
Are you keeping yourself together? I know you've killed quite a few nice bucks. Were you keeping it together pretty good?
That one was weird, man. Because he came in, he was at 25 yards and facing me for the longest time. I think I had like 12 minutes of footage before he turned. And I pulled up my binoculars 3 different times or 2 different times to make sure it was him, because it was just like, it's happening. Here he is,
Yeah.
And I have, because I think everybody has a different stage of target panic. Sure. Like my best friend, Tim, holds high. I hold low. Like I'll walk that front leg up and then kind of go back. Well, he didn't move, and I hit him. I went through the bottom of his lung. So he ran like 1,100 yards.
Oh my gosh.
It was terrible. But he did it like he was such a homebody. He just ran a big loop and died under 200 yards away from where I shot him. Like he ran like a rabbit. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen. But he bled like it wasn't a hard blood trail to follow. And I knew we were getting yards. Yeah. And I was nervous for a while, but then because we tracked him that night and then we pulled out, went back the next morning and was walking through and he jumped up. But I'm like, whoa, what the heck's going on? You could tell like he was not well. Okay. And then it was like every 50 or 60 yards or so, we'd come up on another bed. So I'm like, didn't know what to do. Right. So they always say, you always hear that saying, like, when in doubt, back out.
Yep.
I always tackle it is if you hit him liver or gut, back out. So I wasn't afraid to push him because I watched my arrow hit. I thought I shot him in the heart. Obviously, I didn't once we started seeing beds. So we pushed him. Like, we dogged him pretty hard and ended up finding him that next day.
Well, you're keeping him from clotting up. Like you're keeping it open. You're keeping it moving. You know?
Yeah, we found a 2.5 inch long clot that came out of him. It was like Jello. It was weird. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
But
My buddy
like I said,
in Illinois says the same thing about keeping those deer, like a one lung deer, like keep them moving or pushing. Yeah, I'm not an expert tracker, but that's what I've heard too.
yep. Like I said, we dogged him pretty hard. Like I said, I thought I shot him in the heart.
Yeah.
But once we hit like that 100-yard mark, but the blood trail was incredible. You could run and see it.
Really?
But they just have such a will to live, man. They're tough, especially getting to a 6.5-year-old buck. You know, it's a whole different animal.
It's a beast, man. Congrats on that one.
Thank you.
Awesome. Are you still filming your hunts by chance?
I am. More for fun. You know,
Yeah.
I'll send them into a couple different companies I'm working for now.
Okay.
So now I think everything's kind of sped up. So like your reels, you're sitting on your phone watching like Instagram reels or anything like that. 30 seconds, you're to a different one. 30 seconds, you're to a different one, you know? So I'm kind of tackling more of that now. Like you'll see throughout my Instagram, like I'll take a hunt, film with like a GoPro or even a big camera, and it's 30 seconds long, kind of hitting the key points. So, and I'm testing out different things, new techniques now. And I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Awesome,
just got to do a little bit of editing and see what happens with everything.
Awesome. Well, anything we missed today? I've had you for about over an hour, and I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. Anything that we missed so far?
Oh, I'm sure we have. I mean, I could talk about this stuff for days, man. This is all I do. I don't party, none of that stuff. So it's all the outdoors. You know, that's kind of my goal. Is got a little baby girl now, so I'm hoping she gets into this stuff.
Oh, I'm sure she will.
That's what Lindsay always says. Does she even have a choice?
No. I'm gonna start some of our rapid fire, if you will. We got some new ones thrown into the party here. We'll start out with the simple ones. If we go to your favorite beverage.
Favorite beverage, Dr. Pepper, cream soda.
Great choices. Great choices. Favorite venison recipe.
Oh, bacon, deer bacon.
Really?
Yes. I was exposed to that in Illinois. I thought it was the craziest thing. They actually gave me a pack before I ordered it. That's all we do now.
Wow. That's all you do?
I mean, a lot of jerky and steak. Don't get me wrong, but deer bacon, that's the ticket.
I had it last weekend for the first time, and it was very good as well. It's unique. I never had it. Yeah, it's cool.
No, as long as I can glaze the outside of it, it's key.
Okay. Here's one from one of our listeners on our habitat group. If you could only improve one thing on your land to better your odds of killing a big buck, what would it be?
Cover.
Yeah, it kind of goes to the food water cover question, doesn't it? Yeah, I would agree with that. Solid answer. Your favorite habitat tool, you said was your chainsaw. Did we discuss your favorite tree last time you were on?
Yeah, but I've been thinking about this question since the last time I was on. That's no lie.
Great.
Yes.
Awesome. What's your favorite tree now?
Eastern red cedar.
Okay. That might be, I don't think we've heard that one. And I'm with you. I'm going to plant some this year. We don't have a bunch of it. We're not overrun with it. So
yeah, I had a buddy actually call me after our last time. He's like, dude, why did you not say the cherry tree? Because I have a stand. It's the best stand on my home farm, and he'll hunt it in the fall. And he loves it. And we call it cherry tree stand. He's like, I'm going to kill you. Why did you not say the cherry tree?
Oh, now you did. Now you said both.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, my buddy Mike put this up there. If you walked into your local sandwich shop or deli and something on the menu was named after you, what would it be?
I almost said hot dog. We're not going to say that, though.
I love that.
Yeah. No, I'd probably say just some sort of cold cut.
Okay. I'm going with hot dog. It's better.
Nah.
Okay. No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I don't know what I would say to that. I don't know what I would answer that with either. The first time I've ever asked it. So
hot dog. We'll just stick with it then.
Dude, I love hot dogs.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Cody, thanks so much for coming on, man. I'd love catching up with you. Glad we got to get this recorded, and keep in touch.
Man.
Love to have you on in the future. And Keep doing what you're doing. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man, we definitely need to keep in touch and do this a little more often. This is great, man. I love your show.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Habitat Podcast. We really do appreciate you guys coming back every week to get this awesome Habitat content. And we would appreciate it if you went to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to this podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us continue to grow and trend in the right direction, attract new listeners, and help us provide better content in the future. Guys, we have a website full of resources. We have a blog on the website. We have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all linked up at habitatpodcast.com. Our land plan services, merchandise, decals, hats, t-shirts, and I give away a free 5-inch decal to anyone who leaves us a review on Apple iTunes. Really appreciate it. I want to thank our partners, Downburst Cedars, Vitalize Seed Company, Morse Nursery, Packer Max Cultipackers, Stealth Outdoors, First Light Latitude Outdoors, United Country Midwest Lifestyle Properties, and Exodus Outdoor Gear. Thanks again, guys. We'll be back next week with another great episode of the Habitat Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.